In the few minutes it takes you to watch this, your digital footprint will have told a story about you. But the real question is, who's reading it? We're about to dive into how government surveillance has gone from spies in trench coats to algorithms in the cloud. Let's get right into it. So, how does a government watch its people? It's this massive question, a tug of war between power and privacy that's pretty much as old as government itself. But what's new, what's completely different, is everything else. The tools, the sheer reach, and what the word watching even means. It's all been transformed in ways that would have sounded like science fiction just a few decades ago. And this slide right here really gets to the heart of the entire story. We've moved from a world where surveillance was like a scalpel, super precise, aimed at one person, and honestly pretty hard to use, to a world where it's a giant dragnet just scooping up everything and everyone by default. To really get a handle on where we are now, we have to rewind the clock. We've got to go back to the age of spies and secrets, the Cold War. This was a time of, intense paranoia, where listening in wasn't just some strategy, it was a high-stakes, hands-on job. The classic tool back then was the wiretap, and the key thing to understand about it is how physical it was. This wasn't about code or satellites. This was about an actual agent physically connecting a device to a specific wire just to listen in on one specific conversation. So picture it. It's the 1950s, and the FBI thinks you might be a spy. First, they had to identify you as the target. Then, they had to go convince a judge to give them a warrant. After that, they had to physically find and access the phone lines. And finally, someone has to sit there and manually listen to hours and hours of recordings. The whole process was designed to be difficult. Okay, now let's hit the fast forward button and jump to today. That old world of physical tapes and someone listening with headphones, it seems almost quaint, right? We've crashed into the age of the digital dragnet, where surveillance is automated, it's global, and it operates on a scale that was just unimaginable back then. And the engine powering this new world is one word: metadata. Now, this isn't the content of your call or your email. It's everything about it: who you called, when you called them, how long you talked, where you were when you did it. The intelligence agencies like to say, hey, we're not reading your mail, just the envelope. But wow, that envelope can tell an incredibly detailed story all by itself. This chart just lays it out, plain and simple. The difference is night and day. Where old-school wiretapping was targeted and local, metadata tracking is massive and global. Where one was physical and took a lot of manual effort, the other is automated and digital. And this is the big one. The focus has shifted from what's inside one conversation to analyzing the patterns and connections between millions of people. So, what kind of story does your metadata tell? Well, think about it. It knows you called a doctor's office, and then right after, a pharmacy, and then your insurance company, all within an hour. It knows you were looking at a job search website, and then it tracked your phone to that company's office for an interview. It can map out your entire social circle, your habits, your routines, all without ever reading a single word you wrote or hearing a single word you said. And when that much data can be collected, sorted, and connected, it does something to us. It creates what's called a chilling effect. And it has this huge, often invisible impact on our psychology, on our behavior, and really on the health of our society. It actually changes how we think. This whole effect actually has a name: the Panopticon. It's a concept that comes from an old prison design. The idea was to build a guard tower in the middle of all the cells, so a single guard could see any inmate at any time. But the inmates, they could never know for sure if they were the one being watched. Just the possibility of being watched was enough. You start to police yourself. And that's the absolute core of it. It doesn't even matter if some agent is actively looking at your data at this very second. The simple, persistent feeling that they could be, that knowledge alone is enough to make you change what you do. And the result of that constant, low-level worry is that society starts to censor itself. People might think twice before searching for a controversial topic online. They might be less willing to speak out against people in power or more hesitant to join certain groups, all because of this nagging fear of being flagged by some invisible, automated system. Okay, so all of this brings us to a huge, fundamental clash that is playing out in courts and in governments as we speak. It's a massive debate about our rights, our safety, and what privacy even means here in the 21st century. At the very heart of the American debate is the Fourth Amendment. It was written to stop government agents from, literally kicking down your door and taking your papers without a very specific warrant. It was designed to protect your private space. But how do you apply that language from the 18th century to right now? What is a search when your personal papers aren't in a desk drawer anymore, but exist as tiny bits of data on some company's server, maybe hundreds of miles away? That's the huge legal puzzle that we're all trying to solve. When you strip away all the complexity, this entire issue really boils down to a conflict between two deeply held and really important values. On one side, you've got national security, the argument that the government needs these powerful tools to keep its citizens safe from harm. And on the other side, you have personal privacy, the idea that you have a right to a life that's free from government intrusion. The whole debate really is about where we as a society decide to draw that line. And so that leaves us with this final critical question. Is the ability to have a life that isn't being constantly watched, is that just a luxury that we can't afford anymore in a dangerous world? Or is it a fundamental human right, something that's absolutely essential for freedom, for creativity, and for a democracy to even work? That's the choice we all have to face now.